Hey, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, we'll take a look at the install process for Tailwind CSS version 2 with your WordPress theme. This video is meant for WordPress sites that have themes already installed and want to try out Tailwind. I would avoid adding Tailwind to a theme that was developed with another CSS framework like Bootstrap or Foundation, Bulma, just to avoid any of the conflicts that it may cause. The process is the same regardless if you want to try it or not. This can also apply to anyone that wants to start their own base starter theme with Tailwind as well. If I was starting from scratch, I would use Roots Bedrock and Sage or Thymosis' setup. It structures your development into a MCV setup similar to Laravel, and it uses Blade's theme engine. It also separates your WordPress from your development. For this install, we'll be using Laravel Mix to configure our Webpack and Tailwind setup. At the time of this recording, Laravel Mix is still using PostCSS 7, and Tailwind CSS version 2 requires PostCSS 8. To get around this, there's a compatibility build for Tailwind CSS for PostCSS 7. Do be aware that Laravel Mix and other frameworks may upgrade up to PostCSS 8 in the near future, and the install process will change just a little bit. I'll make a note of it when we're installing. Now, if you're new to the channel, I post up tutorials, tips, and tricks for web development, especially for developers that are just getting started. So if that's the sort of content you're interested in, please do subscribe to the channel. A couple of things you should know before we start. You should have Node and NPM installed. You should have PHP, MySQL installed. Composer would also be a plus if you're doing PHP development. I use Laravel Valet for my local PHP development. This is only for Mac OS. I've also used MAMP as well, but I like Laravel. It's pretty simple to set up. As long as your local dev meets the minimum WordPress requirements, you should be fine. If you're on a Mac and you need help with your web dev environment, I have a tutorial series on my channel to help you set up your Mac for web development, focusing on Terminal, Node, Git, VS Code, and a bunch more. You can check out the videos in the top right corner, and I'll post it to the description down below. You should also have WordPress installed. So here's WordPress. And if you don't have that installed, you can go to support documentations and there should be some prerequisites before you install how to install WordPress. But if you don't know what WordPress is a PHP blog CMS platform, usually run on LAMP stack. It's very popular to have your site run on WordPress. There's some crazy figure that 20% of all self-hosted websites use WordPress. That's 1 in every 5 sites you go to runs WordPress, which is a crazy number. I'll be using VS Code as my code editor. We'll be starting with WordPress already installed using one of the base WordPress themes. Let's go over to Terminal. I'm in my themes folder in WP content/themes. Let's open up VS Code. So here's the files here. Let's go to, and here's the site that with the 2017 theme activated. We'll also go to dashboard, and within appearance, I activated this theme. Reason why I activated this theme opposed to the 2021 or the 2020 or the 2019, one of the newer ones, because they have an npm package, .json file, and I want to kind of keep it clean. You can still install it using those ones, but I just wanted to keep it cleaner to not have anything within a package file already. We can open this up. Let me close out some of this stuff. We don't need this. Close that. That. So we're all set up here. What I want to do here is let's take a look at Laravel Mix and go to documentations. And here, to install Laravel Mix, you don't have to have a Laravel project. You can do it as a standalone project. because it's just an npm package. So you can install it using npm or yarn. Now what we'll do here is we'll follow these instructions here just to set up Laravel Mix first, and then we'll go into setting up and installing Tailwind. The first thing is npm init-y, and I'm doing this in my themes folder within 2017, and that should create us our package.json. And we'll install Laravel Mix, and we'll also install cross env. So npm install -d Laravel Mix and cross env. Okay, so we'll do install npm install -d for dev dependency Laravel Mix and cross env. That's installed. Okay, let's go. What else do we need? Now we need to copy over this file. So this will be our Laravel Mix file. And this will give us kind of a default setup for this that we can work from. We should now have no module, JSON package, and Webpack. If you want to confirm that, we have our node package, we have our package.json, and we have now our base Laravel Mix file. And we can take a look at that. Next thing we'll do is we'll create this. Let's grab this. This will create a source folder with our app and our app.js and our app.scss. We'll be using Sass for this, and it's good to have a preprocessor that we can do. You can also use it as just CSS if you want, but with our Laravel pack, we'll be applying it with Sass. And over here, we'll copy and paste these scripts, and paste it into our JSON file. Have these. We don't need this test. So these are some pre-built, sure that you have the extra comma there for the object to work. These are just some scripts that are pre-set up by Laravel Mix just to help us out. It uses the cross env package. It should work with Windows and Mac OS or whatever operating system you're running on. Save that. That should be okay. Okay, that should be good. Let's clear this. And we can install Tailwind now. Let's go over to Tailwind. Let's click on Laravel here. With Laravel Mix, we need to install the compatibility build here. And if you don't know about the compatibility build, let's just click on this quickly. If you've installed Tailwind like they suggested and you get the PostCSS 8 error, you would have to go and uninstall it and then install the compatibility build. And since we haven't installed it yet, we can just start from this step here. So let's just grab this. We can paste this in. Now, if Laravel Mix upgrades to PostCSS 8 or any framework that you're using that upgrades to PostCSS 8 and you're using the compatibility build, once you confirm that it is using PostCSS 8, you can go and uninstall what you installed for the compatibility build and then reinstall it using Tailwind at latest, PostCSS at latest, and Auto Prefixer at latest. So that's how you would go about upgrading from the compatibility build with PostCSS 7 to go and make it work with PostCSS 8. So just want to make a note of that because it may change in the very near future where a lot of the front-end frameworks are going to upgrade to PostCSS 8 as more and more packages are using it. Close out of that. Now that's installed. Let's check out our package file. So we have Auto Prefixer, Cross env, Laravel Mix, PostCSS, and Tailwind CSS. What's going to happen is Laravel Mix will automatically install some dependencies as we're going to start using it and configuring our Webpack. But we'll start off by installing and setting up Tailwind first with our Tailwind config file. You can do that by, I've had issues with how they've set this up. While they tell you to use npx Tailwind CSS init, I've had problems with this. So I've been using npx Tailwind CSS -CLI at latest init. And you can also do and create it manually yourself. You can just right click, create new file with the tailwind.config.js. Just paste in this content you want. But, if you can do it this way, then why not? Let's also set up our file here. And we can do is just grab our Tailwind config here, and this is the content right here. So we can save that. What we're going to do is we're just going to add another CSS file here. We're not going to replace this one, but if you wanted to only have one file, you could just grab all the content in here and the stuff that is commented out and paste it into here if you wanted to, and then have this at the end or just above this stuff if you wanted to. Just so you would have, if you were to replace this style.css, you would still have all this information here. Because WordPress requires basically two files for a theme to work. You need your style.css, which has some of this information that it needs, like the theme name, the theme URI, the author, all that kind of stuff. And it needs index. It needs this file. And those are the only two files you need to have a theme work at its very base structure. Now, everything else, it can get as complicated or as simple as you want it to, where there could be hundreds of files or just basically two files. Since we're using this 2017 base, I'm just going to be modifying some of these files and kind of keeping the rest of it intact. But you can do it anyway. It should work with basically any theme, minus my suggestions on not having to override a theme that is already using a front-end framework. Now let's just close this. So we'll save that, and that will be our source CSS file. Let's go into our Tailwind config, and this should be very similar. We can just do a purge mode, and do layers, and we do content, then array. What we'll do here is we'll look at all the PHP files in kind of our root folder here for our theme. Do .php, and we'll look at the include folder here. Well, it'd be nice if just to look at all files, or if WordPress had it so we could just look at certain files, like if there was a source file for our theme. But it's not structured like that, so we're going to have to add a couple of patterns. We're going to have to look at this template part. We'll look at the assets here in JavaScript files here. The assets. This content will differ for every kind of theme because there's not a specific structure for WordPress themes. You may not have a template part. You may have something else. You may not have an includes. You'll have to adjust it properly to your theme. For this one, we're looking at all the PHP files within the root folder. For this one, we're looking at all the PHP files within our include. The template parts, we're looking at this. And assets, we're looking at the JavaScript files here. If we were using something like Sage or a different starter theme that was using like the Blade or the PHP Twigs theme engine, it would be a lot easier. You just do similar to what you did in Laravel. In my setup and install Laravel video, we just used blade.php, and that would purge out anything within that. It would make it a lot easier. But again, this will differ for every theme that you're using with WordPress. Okay, so you'll have to adjust it properly. We'll leave dark mode here as false, but if you want to learn about dark mode, I do have a video about dark mode. What I'll do here is add colors, rec colors, Tailwind CSS. This is the Tailwind CSS npm package, and we'll extend here the colors. And we can instead, I'm gonna do cyan. In Tailwind CSS version 2, they've added more color palettes, but they've also made it so there's less color palettes in by default. So some that you may have used before don't come in by default anymore. So you'll have to add them this way. I think teal might be one that it used to be in version 1, but now it's removed in version 2. So you'll have to extend it this way. I'll just save that. There's some more configurations areas. You can add plugins, Tailwind plugins here. Popular one would be the Forms plugin. And if you want to learn about that, I do have a video on the Forms plugin. And I'll post it up over here in the top right corner. I think that's it for this. Do we have any tailing slashes or anything? Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, let's save that. Just for best practice here, I'm just going to put a .env file. It's not mandatory or anything, but I'm just going to put this mix variable here that we can use for our Laravel mix. This is my local host name. This would be different for you if you're using something else. I'm using Laravel's Valet on Mac OS to serve up this site. It gives me this, my folder name .test as my local host. Yours could be just localhost with a port number, 3000, 8000, something like that. Let's close this and open up Webpack Mix. Let's take a look here. And with this, they give us a bunch of sample setups here. What we can do here is we can grab this Sass. Oh, it's already here, actually. So we have here source app CSS, which is this. Okay, so that's okay. This will be going to the distribution. It's fine. Maybe we could put it into here, but for this purpose, you may want to put it in a certain spot. Maybe if you want to just put it right into the root here. So let's do that. And what we'll do here is we need options. So let's grab this, tack it on here, comment that. Want this, and we're going to add our Tailwind to that. Get rid of that. Post CSS URLs will make it false. So this won't process our URLs within our CSS file. And I don't think we need those. So we'll keep those two, and we'll add require here Tailwind. Okay, so this is our Tailwind that we're gonna, when it's using Webpack, it will use Tailwind, which we just installed through npm. Let's just test it out. So we'll do npm run. I think it's dev. Here, npm run dev. Hopefully there's no errors. It's installing PostCSS purge for us. We'll have to run it again. It also installed Sass for us. Do that, and if we want to take a look at here, it installed Sass for us. It also installed, it looks like it installed this. It looks like it's running, I think, and it created our app.js and our app.css file. These two. We have a 4 meg Tailwind file. That's pretty standard for development. And we have our JavaScript file here, which we're not going to be using. It's just here if you want to use it as within your Webpack. Now that that's working, let's add another section for browser sync. Grab this. And what this is going to do is it's going to live update anything that we change within our theme. Automatically hot refresh our browser when we're changing anything within our theme. Okay, so I'm going to add some properties here, or object. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab this, paste this. So for here, we have a proxy, we have a host, and I have this grabbing from my .env file, and that was that mix app host. And this is my localhost name. I'm going to add it here, going to open externally. So it's going to proxy that URL into another URL with probably port 3000. Here I'm going to look at or watch all PHP files within the theme, all CSS files within the theme, and all JS files within the theme. And it automatically excludes node modules. So it's only watching everything that's not in. Laravel Mix automatically does that, or BrowserSync automatically does that. Let's save this and let's run. You can do it by npm run watch. This is going to install our BrowserSync dev dependency here first. You can see that here. Let's run it one more time. It's automatically opened up our folder here. We need to add our built CSS file or Tailwind CSS file to the template, and we can do that by going into the functions. And we scroll down here. This will differ for every template, but you just got to find where they add the file. Within here, we have something called 2017 scripts. And here is the file for adding main CSS file, this one. Let's duplicate that. We'll grab this, place it with this app. That's the name of our file here. And we'll call this Tailwind styles. This is our version for the CSS file. And since we have this app.js, we might as well add it as well. Not necessarily needed for this, what we're doing, but might as well add it if you need it. If you're using Laravel Mix, duplicate that. I'm going to call it theme-app. You can just do app.js. Here we leave it as an empty array. We'll keep the same version, just so we have it the same. You could update it if you update this, I guess. And we set it to true so it shows up at the bottom of just above the body, the closing body tag. It's been reloading, so our browser sync has been working. Check it out. Let's go and view source. Here we can look up app.css. It's showing up here. So this is our Tailwind folder. And let's look up JS. And this is our script here that is being built through Laravel Mix. And that is at the bottom of the footer here, above the body, with a bunch of other stuff here. A part of how they've set this up in WordPress. Okay, let's close this up. Let's test out Tailwind. So I'm going to go ahead and modify something. Scroll here. We got our theme folder here. We can close the function now that that's working. Webpack, and let's go into. We'll take a look at over here, this post here, just to test out some utility classes. Now what we can do here is within index, I think it's right here, post, I think it's this right here. Go ahead and do text, do 4XL, text cyan 500. Save that. And the browser sync is working and it automatically changed these, and these are using Tailwind classes. Now with Tradition, I normally just create a full page section with card with this title. So let's do that. Let's go into, I think this is the header here. I think it's this section. Go ahead and remove this. Hopefully that will work. So we have that. Now what we can do here is I can go ahead and do class equals flex screen, justify center, items center. We'll do BG cyan 50. That. And we get this full screen here. In here I'll do a div rounded dash large. I'll do P10 hang 10 shadow BG white text center. Here I'll do an H1 class equals text 6XL font bold text cyan 500 and uppercase. So nothing here. I'm gonna use PHP, one of the blog info. its name, and this will be the name of our blog. It should be WordPress with Tailwind CSS version 2. I'll do a p tag. I'll do the same thing here, grab this, and I'll do description. Just another blog. And what I'll do here, do class, do text for Excel. There we go. And here we are. We have our WordPress with Tailwind CSS version 2, just another WordPress site. So just like most of my other setup and installs, let's go ahead and look at the production build. Cancel out of this, and we'll do npm run prod. It built that. Let's make sure it's working. Let's reload this. How do we serve this up? I can just go here. Since I'm using Laravel Valet, I can just go like this. This should be right. If I go and look at view page source, find app.css, and here's that version within the enqueuing styles, the function. Our CSS is purged, minified, and it's only a small fraction of the size from the 4 meg. So it's only 5 kilobytes now. That's how you set up WordPress with Tailwind CSS version 2. Let's recap what we did in this video. We started off installing Laravel Mix using npm. We have that here, Laravel Mix here. Since it's an npm package, it's not limited to Laravel projects. We can easily configure Sass, and we can configure our post CSS with Tailwind CSS here. And we added a browser sync for hot live refreshes within our WordPress theme. We installed Tailwind CSS using the post CSS 7 compatibility build. And when Laravel Mix or just other front-end frameworks in general start to use post CSS 8, we'll need to uninstall the compatibility build, and we'll be able to use the latest Tailwind CSS version 2 package. Down here on the post CSS 7 compatibility build, at the very bottom, you would uninstall the compatibility build and install the latest version of Tailwind CSS version 2. And even if you end up not using Tailwind CSS within your theme, the benefits of having a Webpack set up with Laravel Mix, having a preprocessor with Sass, asset bundling, and hot live refresh with a browser sync are all bonuses to your vanilla version of your WordPress theme if you've never set that up before. Hopefully you learned a little bit about Laravel Mix, Webpack, Tailwind CSS version 2 with your WordPress theme. And hopefully I'll talk to you guys in another video. Hey, if you've gotten this far, thanks for the support. This will help the channel grow. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to click the thumbs up button and leave a comment down below. To stay updated with the latest content from the channel, you can subscribe by clicking right here in the middle.